Lemur Ghost Story series. Each part will have a fairly complete story. However, I still encourage everyone to listen to the beginning of the Lemur playlist so that you can enjoy this ghost exorcism journey more. Wishing you the most relaxing moments. Chapter 6: The Reason for Being Haunted. James and his wife stayed awake until the sun rose through the windows. Only when the sunlight entered the room did they dare to step out. Both of their faces were pale and exhausted after a horrifying night. It was only 9 a.m., and Long had already woken up. The doorbell rang. Mary hurriedly ran out, but she still carefully looked through the peephole to see who was outside. Fear still lingered in the house. As James' mother, Mary opened the door. Seeing her daughter-in-law's pale face, she immediately asked, "What happened? Did you and James have trouble sleeping because of the long journey yesterday? And where is Long? Isn't he supposed to go to school today?" Mary invited her mother-in-law inside and replied, "Long has 3 more days off before he has to go to school, Mom. Oh, by the way, I'm telling you this, please don't scold me." Mary's mother-in-law was surprised. "Are the two of you arguing again? Why does my grandson's face look so lifeless?" Mary hesitated and didn't know how to respond. James's mother walked in. The first thing she noticed was the door shattered into pieces. There was still a fire extinguisher lying on the floor. Looking up at Mary, she saw bruises on her neck and scratches as if someone had clawed at her. Angry, his mother shouted, "Where is that wretched James? Did he destroy the house, break the door, and beat his wife like this? Where are you?" James was in the bathroom brushing his son's teeth when he heard his mother's voice. He quickly ran out to explain, "Mom, you just arrived. It's not like you think. Hi. Seeing her son's anger, Mary was afraid of misunderstandings, so she quickly said, "It's not James who hit the boy, Mom. Even I don't know how to explain this to you." At that moment, Long came out of the bathroom, holding 2 dolls. Seeing his pale face, his grandmother pulled his hand back and asked, "Why does the child look sick like this? Where did you get those 2 dolls? Yet you let the child play with them." As began the story, Mary said to Mom, "Those 2 dolls were taken by Long from the basement of that mansion. I don't know why that little boy went down to that ruined basement. And then he kept holding on to these 2 dolls. Whenever I took them away, he would cry." James's mom shouted, "Oh my God. Haven't you been taught that objects like bracelets, dolls, or figurines in abandoned houses are never allowed to be brought home? There are spirits attached to them. They say that the objects that the previous owners wore, regardless of whether the previous owners are dead or not, still have a bit of their souls attached to them. If the person is still alive, it's fine. But if they are objects of the deceased, then that person's soul will follow a little bit of this remaining soul to enter. Don't you see that the belongings of the dead should be burned by their families? Yet you still let my grandson play with them. I have nothing more to say to you." Hearing Mom say that, the James couple broke out in cold sweat. What she just said partly explained the strange events that happened last night. Indeed, since the little boy held those 2 dolls, he changed. There was something eerie about him. Like last night, when his parent was scared to death, he sat calmly, pointed at his parent, and laughed. At this moment, James looked at Mom and whispered in her ear, "Last night, we saw a ghost, Mom." The whispering voice of the son made Mrs. James' hair stand on end because she was extremely believe about supernatural things. Glancing over, she saw her grandson's face seemingly lifeless, his hands holding onto the 2 dolls and smiling, which made her even more horrified. She stuttered, "How long has it been? When did you see it? And why do you see it here?" After taking Long to the bedroom, James and his wife returned to the living room and began telling Mom about the terrifying story from last night. It started with James's mom hearing the sound of a hammer hitting the wall on the first night they stayed in the mansion in Houston. Then there were strange noises coming from the house that everyone could hear. James even mentioned having intimate dreams with someone he thought was his wife. Upon hearing this, Mary denied it. "That wasn't me." That morning, I woke up early and had to sweep the yard before preparing breakfast for the whole family. While I was still outside, I saw a figure passing by the kitchen. I thought it was Mom. James's mom interrupted. "That's impossible. When I went downstairs, both of you were already awake. Before that, my husband and I were on the upper floor, and no one went downstairs." All three of them held their breath, swallowing nervously. Mary continued talking about the sound of running water, but when she went to the kitchen, she didn't see anything. James, with a trembling voice, said, "And on that night, the night when our child had those marks on his body, when I brought you and our son home, I went to the bathroom. Were you standing outside washing dishes?" Mary was surprised and said she still thought James woke up early to wash those dishes in the next morning. The more they talked, the colder their spines felt. All the things they thought each person did turn out to be done by someone they didn't even know was present in that mansion. James stammered, speaking while trembling. "That's impossible. I heard the sound of running water and the sound of dishes touching each other. I even asked you to hand me a towel and hang it on the door. And clearly, when I asked, you responded with, 'Yes, honey.'" At this point, Mom panicked and said firmly, "We are being followed by a ghost. I had a bad feeling from the first night. Now we can't stay here and talk anymore. You two carry along and come with me. Let's go meet this person and see if she can help us. The ghost followed us all the way here, and you two don't even know anything." Mary hurriedly carried her son and followed her husband outside. The child cried and refused to go. His grandmother took a bead necklace that she was wearing around her neck and put it on the baby. She also took a silver needle and pinned it on the sleeves, pants, and chest shirt of the child. Only then did he stop crying and let his mother carry him away. As they walked, the grandmother spoke. "This necklace was given to me by a monk at the temple. I often go there to pray and make offerings. The monk said that wearing this necklace would protect me from evil spirits. When I saw the boy crying so much, I put it on him, and luckily it worked. Children are often possessed by evil spirits, but you don't seem to care at all." The road was winding and confusing, but James noticed that his mother was familiar with the way, so he asked, "How do you know this place so well?" "It's quite far from where we live." James' mother replied, "Occasionally, I come here with my friends to have our fortunes told and get rid of bad luck. She is very good at fortune telling. Whatever she says always comes true. Once, a child nearby was possessed by an evil spirit, and they came to her for help. Now their child is healthy. Well, just park the car here. Mary and I will wait here for you." James parked the car on the side of the dirt road, next to a fairly large pond. As expected, fortune tellers and psychics always hide in remote places, in rural areas, so it's hard for anyone to find them. The house that James' mother led them to was quite large, but it was old and covered with moss after years of wind and rain, making it look ancient. There was a bridge, a water dock, and a spacious garden with various fruit trees. In front of the house of the fortune teller, there were about 3 or 4 people sitting, patiently waiting. It seems like James' mother is familiar with this situation. She goes inside to find a 13-year-old child. She writes something on a piece of paper and asks the child to take it. At noon, the people waiting outside the house leave one by one after hearing the child announce that the medium needs to rest and see everyone in the next day. After everyone has left, the child goes down and says to James' mother, "Please invite the 3 of you to the front compartment to discuss matters." James' mother signals for her children to follow her. The house looks spacious, with a large altar arranged with many worship items. In the middle is a copper incense burner emitting thick smoke. Above it is a statue of three fierce-looking deities. Sitting below in the middle of a black wood floor is the medium, chewing betel nut. James' mother bows her head and says, "I apologize for bothering you during lunchtime like this. But it is true that our family is facing a problem and we would like to ask for your help." After speaking, James' mother steps aside. James and his wife also fold their hands in front of their chests and look at the medium, pleading. The medium stops chewing betel nut and looks at James and his wife standing with long below. The medium speaks up, "Sit down. Your whole family is facing a big problem. Do you have ancestral worship or worship of the earth's deity? Why are the wandering souls clinging to your doorstep like this?" Mary, upon hearing the medium's words, quickly kneels down and begs, "Please, it's a very long story. But it's true that our whole family is being haunted. It only started 5 days ago, but last night it scared us to death." The medium looked at James and continued speaking. "This guy has had sexual relations with that ghost for the past few days. He still emits a heavy aura." Looking at Long, the medium continued. "This little boy is not okay, his face is bad. Children like him are often haunted by ghosts. The 2 dolls he holds in his hands are what bring the ghosts to your house." When James's mom heard this, he got scared and immediately asked, "Please help me find a way to resolve this for my family. These children don't know anything." The medium told James to step onto the wooden floor, light 3 incense sticks, and then dip his hands into a bowl of clean water. She told James to spread his hands out, and after looking for a while, she shook her head. "I can only say that the ghost following you home is a young girl, someone who has been unjustly dead for many years, but her soul has not been released. But I don't understand why she is clinging to your whole family. And where did she start following you? Has your family recently gone somewhere far away or entered a dark place like a cave or mountain?" James nodded, wide-eyed with surprise when she mentioned his recent purchase of a mansion in Houston. Mary also recounted all the strange incidents that had happened to her family in the past few days. After hearing the story, the medium smirked and said, "Well, that's right. In that house, there must have been someone who died unjustly. You and your husband bought the house and stayed there for a few days, which disturbed the spirit of the deceased, so it followed you. That house doesn't have an altar, right?" Mary nodded and replied, "Yes, that's correct. My husband is not superstitious. He said we already have an altar for our ancestors at his parents' house. So there's no need for anything to be worshipped at our house anymore." The medium pointed at James and accused him of being ignorant. Even if he didn't worship the ancestors, there should still be an incense bowl in the house to worship the spirits or the earth's deity. They are the ones who protect the house for the owner whenever they are away. In any house that worships the earth deity, even if the owner is far away, before entering the house guardians prohibit and chase away any lingering spirits. Whether they are wandering souls or evil spirits, it is difficult for them to enter the house. Now that everything has changed, not only did the spirits follow him home, but they also follow him wherever he goes. James' family is sitting inside, but those spirits are still waiting outside the gate. Hearing this, Mary felt a chill down her spine and quickly asked if it was still possible to set up an altar to worship the protective deities. The medium shook her head and said that once the spirits have entered the house, it is meaningless to ask the earth deity for help. The medium also admitted that she didn't have the ability to drive away that female ghost. The female ghost standing outside the gate seems to want to kill the medium. This female ghost died tragically and has been in the mortal world for a long time, so she has become increasingly resentful. The medium can only help James' family reduce some of the danger. But if they want to resolve or drive her away, they must find someone who understands Buddhism deeply, someone who knows how to ward off evil and has higher spiritual power than that female ghost. If this matter is not resolved soon, that female ghost will destroy James' family and their work, and harm each member of James' family one by one. James heard that and his legs and arms trembled. He pleaded with the medium for help, but she just sighed and went into the room. A moment later, the medium turned around with a small yellow bag and a small brown gourd. Although this medium couldn't completely drive it away, she had a few items that could somewhat restrain the disturbance and harassment that the female ghost brought. The medium took out a pure silver bracelet from the yellow bag and put it on James' son's wrist. She instructed James that when they reached the intersection, he should quickly throw these two dolls onto the road and also throw some money at that intersection. The important thing to remember is to throw them right in the middle of the intersection and quickly drive away. Doing so may prevent that spirit from following James' family outside, but it will still reside in James and Mary's house. The medium handed a gourd wrapped in pink silk thread. She instructed them to hang it in front of the bedroom door to prevent it from entering during inauspicious hours. It is best for James' family to sleep wherever it is hung, and they must sleep together. In addition, they must leave the bedroom during the following hours: 6 p.m., known as the hungry ghost hour, midnight, the hour of transition, or 3 a.m., the hour of the ghost gate, as during these hours, negative energy is most active and evil spirits are most likely to harm humans. After giving these instructions, the medium made the entire James family sit there and wait until after 1 p.m. before they could leave. Being sincerely guided, James and his wife were grateful to her. James took out the money and thanked her with $1,000. Pondering, the medium revealed, unjustly deceased souls like this often cannot escape because of their resentment, so they stay in the mortal world. Or it could be because their death was too sudden, so those ghosts are not aware that they have died. Over time, they have no way to reincarnate. The medium advised James to learn about that mansion before seeking a master to release their fortune. Otherwise, it may have adverse effects. The medium suddenly fell silent. She looked at the clock, and then gestured for James's mother and her family to leave immediately. James's mom and his children bowed their heads, clasped their hands, and thanked the medium for her guidance, then left gently. Now James' family understood where those ghosts came from. Their curiosity about their strange experiences has also been answered. But they still haven't found someone who can exorcise this female ghost. Since wearing the pure silver thread, Long is no longer attached to the two dolls. Approaching the intersection, when the green light just turned on, Mary lowered the window and let the two dolls out. In the back seat, James's mom scattered money on the road. When they arrived home, James moved all their son's belongings to the couple's room. Then, James hung a gourd wrapped in pink silk thread on the inside of the bedroom door. The atmosphere in the house suddenly became cold. With his mom and his wife sitting there, he said, "I have to go back to Houston for a trip." Both his mother and Mary nodded in agreement. Because they knew, according to the medium's guidance, what they needed to know was what happened in that mansion and who the girl who died there was.